Oppression due to literacy. In the past, I used to believe that being literate simply meant being able to read and write. After reading substantial texts about literacy and learning other point of views on the subject, my definition of literacy has branched out. Even though the meaning of literacy stems from the ability to read and write, it is so much more than that. True literacy is expanded knowledge and adaptability. It is the ability to use the knowledge that is gained through reading and writing and applying it to real world problems. I think literacy has become a necessity in the 21st century. If you're not able to communicate and project your ideas, you cannot be successful. As Paulo Freire outlines in his article, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, a communicative environment is essential in a classroom and allows students to implement their own ideas. This results in a class discussion which benefits students more than the traditional classroom setting. Freire encourages teachers to utilize the problem posing method since it allows students to project and vocalize their opinions. I believe that if I was in an oppressed learning environment, my thoughts would be constrained, resulting in limited literacy, because though I would be able to regurgitate the information taught by teachers, I would not be able to think on my own and grow to my full potential. I believe that there is still oppression that exists in today's education. A public speaker in my sophomore year enlightened my history class about Turkey's denial for the mass murder of Armenians, also known as the Armenian Genocide. The speaker's grandmother was a survivor of the mass killings. Turkey is on the path of eliminating the horrible mistake from history because they are ashamed of the event. As a result, the new generation will have a false image of their country, and ultimately the horrible instance will be erased, disrespecting all the victims and their families. As Paulo Freire states, the educators use oppression to remain in power. Each country's history books differ from each other because they attempt to eliminate the country's flaws in order to feel powerful. Even though we believe that our point of views are incorporated in our education, in reality, oppression still exists. Literacy symbolizes power. Freire demonstrates the correlation between literacy and power by his depiction of the tyranny educators project onto pupils. Freire outlines the banking method in which the teachers minimize students' creative thinking in order to gain omnipotence in the classroom environment. Teachers use their own literacy in order to stump the knowledge of their students and maintain control. This reminds me of a story that my mother once told me of her work experience when we first migrated to the United States. From her experience of trying to succeed in her new workplace, she cemented the importance of literacy in my brain. My mother told me about her coworker who would always try to enforce her ideas and principles on my mom. Having no power or choice, my mother felt restricted and was forced to follow her coworker's point of view. If my mother was able to communicate fluently, she would have had a better chance of defending herself. As Amitav Kumar discusses in Language, the complications immigrants are faced with due to their illiteracy in language. Relating back to my mother, if she was able to communicate properly, she wouldn't have felt so restricted and powerless. Literacy impacts the lives of immigrants remarkably because with it, they would be able to voice their opinions in the ongoing issue of parent and child separation and turn the ballgame around, perhaps on their side. There is more to knowledge than simply being able to read a novel or write an article. Life is about the comprehension and projection of ideas. True literacy is about flexibility and being able to not only understand ideas but to be able to use them in real world. In a classroom, students must be given the freedom to explore their own thoughts and ideas in order to gain true knowledge that is not derived simply from memorization and repetition. Literacy provides all people with immense power to not only express but to defend their beliefs and principles. I believe that in order to strengthen the youth and to build a society in which all people are truly intelligent, we must simply teach our children to read and write, but to be able to implement that skill and reach true literacy and excellence.